I'm with the City of West Hollywood, and we're really happy to have you here with us tonight to celebrate Jeanne Córdova. And with me tonight are the other two lesbians in West Hollywood. Corey Roskin, who has done tremendous work in putting this lesbian speaker series together for the city. And we're very proud to have our department director, Elizabeth Savage, the director of Human Services and Rent Stabilization for the city. So it's really meaningful for us to be able to honor Jeanne in this way. And she was so many things to so many people. A pioneer, a visionary, a trailblazer, those get thrown around a lot, but they actually really apply to her. And fundamentally, all of our lives are better because of her and her tenacity. The Lesbian Speaker Series has been honored to host a number of prominent lesbians, from historian Lillian Faderman to authors like Sarah Schulman and Eileen Miles, comedian Julie Goldman, Natalie Goldberg, and so many more. And so this is really a perfect kind of fit for the work that the Lesbian Speaker Series has done. And Corey, the other Corey, is going to talk to you a little bit about some of our upcoming events and about tonight's program.
We also want to say thanks to the Cori. We call ourselves the Cori. The boss of the Cori, David Judy, who's back there. The West Hollywood City Council, and also the folks from the West Hollywood Library, who've been great in allowing us to do all sorts of events here. So thanks to them too. We have one upcoming event. There's some flyers back there on Friday, March 10th with a group from the Bay Area called Sister Spit. Does anybody know about Sister Spit? Yeah. Sister Spit, the next generation. So grab a flyer. It's going to be downstairs. It's going to be great. It's actually going to be happening during the week of the Lambda Lit Fest. The Lambda Lit Fest is going to be on Saturday, March 11th. Lynn and I are both on the steering committee. There's a few people here who I know are on panels. I think Claudia, Robbins, Terry, did they? And the programming is going to be really exciting. It'll be up on the website soon. So go to lambdaliterary.org. Full day of programming at Barnstall Park, and then other stuff happening throughout the week, including Sister Spit and other events which will be forthcoming. And the city is a co-sponsor of that, and it's in different fashions as well. There's one other thing I can't mention yet, but there's going to be another cool thing in March. Please sign the list if you're not on it, and you'll get emails about it. It's pretty exciting. It's just we're trying to do one last little thing before we can announce it. That is it. We're very excited about tonight's program. I'm going to have Corey start by introducing the fabulous Lynn Harris Ballin, who we love dearly.
Before that, I would also be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge the support of our City Council, who's helped provide funding and resources for us to do this series. So it's my pleasure to introduce Lynn, and as usual, tonight she's wearing many hats, as she always does. We want to acknowledge and thank you for all your help in putting tonight together and making this great evening to celebrate and honor Jeanne. As many of you know, Lynn is a senior producer and host of the Feminist Magazine radio program on KPFK. She's also a co-founder and co-conspirator with Jeanne. She created Square Peg Magazine and founded a social justice nonprofit for girls in Baja, Mexico. They also started Lex, the lesbian exploratory that produced gender play and lesbian culture, an exhibit that was featured over at the One Archives Gallery, the Lesbian Legacy Wall at One, and the Butch Voices LA conference, which was held over at Plummer Park. Lynn is a valued member of the steering committee for the first ever Lambda Lit Fest that will be here in Los Angeles, and is an alumna of Hedgebrook. She is currently finishing her own writing project, a memoir set in South Africa about adoption, apartheid, and the very personal and political work that happened there. We can't wait for her book to be published and invite her back to be part of another Lesbian Speaker Series event. So please welcome Lynn Ballin.
It's really lovely to see you all here tonight and be here among the books. And it just reminds me that we were just telling stories among Jeanne's siblings last night about how folks had actually proposed to each other. And Jeanne proposed to me in a bookstore, at the Different Light bookstore in the lesbian literature section. This is kind of perfect. I had a really hard time deciding what to read tonight, and I think that was partly because some of my favorite pieces of Jeanne's writing, that among the essays and anthologies and stuff, were all in her own voice. She so often told stories, weaving in parts of her life, and they were so very her. And I tried reading them aloud, and I was struggling a little bit with it, and then I thought, I'm just going to do it. So this is a piece from this anthology called Persistent Desire, and it's a femme butch reader. Thank you, Joe Nessel. And it's an essay called Butch's Lies and Feminism, and I'll just read a little bit from it, because it's one of my favorite of Jeanne's pieces. I think it's one of the really beautifully written, but also very essentially her. Someday they'll come for the butchers who will speak for us. Passion keeps me alive. When I cease to live audaciously, that day I'll die. Being a butch has been the most troublesome and most delicious experience of my life. Being a butch, like being a woman, a lesbian, having a soul, is not something that I can dismiss. I believe butchers are born, not made. Since this is my birthright, I choose to glory in it. And when I comb my hair back and strut out my front door, being butch is my hallelujah. As a butch, I've walked 100 alleys, seen 1,000 stairs, and the question in those eyes is always the same. Are you a man or a woman? I've come to know that the hate I thought I saw in those stares is really fear. The cold, cruel eyebrows are really pleading, what are you? If you're not male or female, I cannot know you as neither, I cannot understand you, and I hate you because I don't know you. Being a coconut butch, brown on the outside, white on the inside, from an upper middle class family, I was spared most of those direct hits my pals took on the blue-collar streets of East LA. And in the late 60s, I worked in a prison system where butchers were vigorously strip-searched by male guards, and out on the streets, I'd have many close calls and one near hit. On the outskirts of feminism in '72, I stopped at a traffic signal next to a dyke bar in North Hollywood, and the car in the back of me repeatedly bumped my fender. Furious, I jumped out of the car, marched back, leaned my flat top into the driver's window, demanding, you blind, drunk, or just stupid, mister? How about staying off my fender? His beer-glazed eyes registered me. F you, bull dyke, and he jabbed a fist in my face. Don't you just wish, I laughed. Just then, the light turned green. I rushed back to my car, sweeping around the corner and into the parking lot of Joni Presents. I parked. As I walked towards the bar, I gulped. Archie Bunker had followed me. He was coming at me with a crowbar. But the goddess was with me that night. The man thundered past me, smashed his crowbar into my car rear window. He was in a rage because this bull dyke was neither male nor female, and I'd eclipsed his gender boundaries. Society demands that genders define existence. Humankind is agender-phobic. Nobody wants to answer the question, what is a butch? Because few languages in the world have words that define those who stand between the genders. To me, butch is a recombinant mix of yin and yang energy. Like recombinant DNA, a butch is an elusive, ever-resynthesizing energy field, a lesbian laser that knits the universes of male and female. Some have said that a feminist butch is an oxymoron. I say it's a paradox. A feminist butch is a dyke who has survived the Cuisinart blades of feminist rhetoric. To survive being butch, you have to have been born with an ornery spirit. The second of 12 children, I was 4 when my mother, Joan Frances McGuinness, passed by the back porch and saw me sitting on the grass, talking to myself. And she tells her favorite story. Jeanne was holding one foot in her hand and she said, "The devil tells me to take off my shoes. My mommy tells me not to take off my shoes. I'm going to take them off anyway." I was born with my mother's flair, dared to do it differently, and my father's arrogance. You can be anything in the world. Anything except a lesbian, except a butch. I'm going to go to one last line here. Today, I argue with my lover. Are butches more repressed than femmes, or vice versa? But back then, there was no debate. High school years are harder on the butches. Femmes passed as straight, even sometimes to themselves. Butches can't. We stick out like G.I. Joes in Barbie Land. And I'm just going to introduce the next reader, and she'll tell you a little bit about herself and her piece and her connection to Jeanne, Claudia Rodriguez.
Good evening, everyone. As Lynn said, my name is Claudia Rodriguez, and it's great to be here with you all tonight, especially because it's a mini reunion for a lot of us. Lynn, Robin, hello, hi, and Jane, we all used to be part of a writing group called Lesbian, which I was, I guess, fortunate enough to get invited to. You know, I don't recall exactly how it is that I met Jeanne, but I do remember that she thought I was butch enough, cool enough, and obviously talented enough to extend an invitation to this very not exclusive in a bad way, but exclusive in the sense that it was like a very small group of women that were all writing from different voices, different perspectives, but all shared the love of writing in common. And so, you know, obviously I'm a writer, I'm a poet, I'm also from Compton, and I'm also a sociology professor, which is of all crazy things, that's what I am. So one of the, that's an inside joke with myself, so it's okay. One of the poems that I'm going to read for you all today is entitled "On Being Butch." And given what Lynn just shared, I don't feel that it merits any more prefacing. I used to think that I wasn't pretty. I felt that my hair was just too short, my nails jagged and in urgent need of a manicure, and my lips and cheeks were never the right hue. But this was before I understood and accepted what it means for me to be butch. Because let me tell you, this butch is a chillona, y gay, who often wipes away tears on the very same sleeve on which she's pinned her heart. Being butch means that I'll always get the "excuse me, this is the ladies' room," when my bladder and temper are about to burst. It means slipping into a fresh pair of boxer briefs, the kind that hug my butt, giving it the roundness of a small mango, or into a pair of chones, not the sexy lacy kind, but the cottony sensible ones. And other times, it means not wearing any underwear at all. My lips rub against the seat of my jeans, and I feel the doughy softness of my inner thighs with every step I take. It means give me a 3 on the top, 3 on the sides, longer on the top, square the back, and please, oh please, don't fuck up my sideburns. It's been years since I've worn a dress, but my mom still wishes for the day when she'll get to see me in one. And I wish that one day she'll start seeing me. I'm the kind of butch that says to all you butches out there, the ones who give me and other butches the, bitch, what are you staring at? I'll drop your ass in a minute, snarl. Please, lower your chin and relax your shoulders. I'm not sizing you up. I'm checking you out. Because being butch means that I'm definitely masculine, not to be confused with misogynist. I'm not a man, nor do I need to be masculine. Women are never bitches and hoes. Women are my hermanas, mis amores. Women are another chamber in mi corazón. Thank you. And just it threw me off talking about my hair because I was like, wait, what do I get now? It was like, oh, I don't get that haircut anymore. Yeah, I'm doing the butch bun, okay? It's not the man bun. But I wanted to plug in really quick. This book where I read my poem from is called Coiled Serpents, Poets Arising from the Cultural Quakes and Shifts of Los Angeles. Yeah, it's one of those that has a really long title. But it's out of Tia Chucha Press. Luis Rodriguez is doing great work out there in, where is it? Silmar, thank you. And the next piece I'm going to read is entitled Y Volver, Volver. And one of the things that I recall, well, the many things that I recall about, there are a lot of things that I recall about Jeanne, but one of the things that for sure that stands out is that obviously she loved being butch and talking about butch identity and, you know, how sometimes even the longing for it, you know, politics and identity politics progress and move forward, and sometimes she was happy about it, other times she wasn't. And the other thing that she also, that we always talked about in our groups was also politics. So this, for me, was kind of a reaction to, you know, the current elections. Y volver, volver, a la opresión otra vez. Llegaré hasta donde estés, yo sé perder, pero jamás me venceré. History repeats itself, spins like a 45, but then scratches, and I keep coming back to the same place, like literally, like a poem about writing itself. I teach at Cal State Dominguez Hills, Toro Pride Tuesdays, Burgundy and Goldhorn students, learners and spielers of knowledge, ideas bouncing off those 70s concrete walls between the Japanese gardens, bonsai trees growing little, and back to CAMS, the high school I went to when I was just a little 9th grade girl from Compton, which started to feel little for me, so I knew I had to go. Looking for an alternative, and CAMS High landed on my map, my route and this road was taken, but now I've started a path. CAMS is on the campus of Dominguez Hills, and back in 1990, I never fathomed that in 2014, I'd be back in my English classroom spinning another story as Professor Rodriguez and students breaking down the gender binary and other ideas crossing like intersectionality. History repeats itself. It's just like heaven hovering above over you. I'm so over you. You my prop. I do whatever it takes to rule over you. Rules over you, to strap you down. These rules of how to rule the masses. It's my privilege. My privilege that I do it to you. I stick it, twist it around my steak. You're cooked, my little brownie. Die, rot in the scent pool that you created. Everyone is on my trail, but I don't lose track of the ones that I've laid. They call it rise to power for a reason. Now come over here and fluff me up. You with your misdirected anger and misinformation, the economic pressure, you feel it on your lomo. That's what the bad hombres call it when they put their back into it. And you, my chickie, with your liberal views, your attraction to standing all voyeuristic as a position we've inherited all the way to our veins, wreaks havoc. Too funny to turn away. Get a good look in the mirror. See the ghost of oppression's past. It's a hate that will not concede. Yes, there may be lots of people that hate me, but there's that one kid who doesn't. So come here and fluff me up. My desire is magnetic, like huge magnet that cause opposites attract. Together bonding, they stick together through their fear of another planet. That's what they sound like they're from another planet. This isn't a turf war. We're not going to be smudged out. Here we come. Give you a smudging smoke screen against your hurt, your broken place in society. You have us, pockets of microclasses, spinning our lives like a saucer on a stick, stuck in between my teeth, and still speaking out against your lashing out. You didn't break, but you are broken, and you are hurt at the memories we conjure up, because we do it like Ouija, speaking to our spirits, ending the vicarious pain. Memories I have of you, nightmares is what I call them. So I stay woke. I'm alive. I survive. Please join me if you feel like it. Join me so we can feel alike. Like a close my eyes. Let's focus on our breath. Just our breath. Our breath. I open my eyes and I see my people, my beautiful, queer people. I see women who stay lit, like a bonfire, healing those cracks with our breaths. We're not done filling in the gaps that you call history, one you wish to forget because it hurts. You feel unliked, not wanted. Welcome to my nightmares. I've been holding my breath, waiting for the day that I can finally say, they're here. Our woke white allies, come here. History repeats itself, and I'm here today, and I know that I'll be here again some tomorrow, that our attraction for each other through our breaths is a magnet for positivity, so that we can all turn back some of the negativity that has been spun into our society. Like Superman back in 1978, R.I.P. Christopher Reeves, turned back time flying around Earth, backwards, pushing against Earth's inertia. We, hopefully our breaths, none bigger than the other, none smaller, are pushing humanity, decency, love, and respect forward. Thank you. It is my honor to introduce the rebel rouser, Jeanne Ward.
I, too, was a member, and still a member, I hope, of Lizarati. And that's significant for me because I am a professor of gender and sexuality studies at UC Riverside. And, you know, when you are an academic, you're encouraged to relate to writing as a kind of ancillary part of what you do, even though that's all you do. So writing becomes kind of like the empty vessel that carries your research findings. So you're encouraged to write in a very prosaic way. And so when I joined Lizarati, Jeanne and the other members of the group offered me a tremendous gift, which was to encourage me to think about myself as a writer and not just a professor, and to also think about my writing as an art form, as a craft. And so I also want to just say that my last book was called Not Gay, Sex Between Straight White Men. And I wrote that book while I was in Lizarati, and the members of Lizarati read every word of that book. And Jeanne could not have been more forgiving about the fact that I wrote a book and talked about it in her home that was entirely about what she called white dick. And so I will forever be grateful to her for forgiving me for that. So this piece is called, it's autobiographical, it's called Why Summer is the Queerest Season. It is summer. The three of us are safe and in love. We are naked and drinking ice water. Anyone who wants to wear pink can wear pink, and no one will be wrong. When I first started writing about genderqueer parenting, or parenting in a way that promotes children's gender self-determination, I received some interesting criticism. Parents of older children suggested that my ideas were naive, that it's all too easy to produce 2-year-olds who radiate gender liberation as they toddle about with the gender-defiant hairstyles and 70s glam rock-inspired outfits that they've been dressed up in by their queer parents. But just wait, the critics said, until that little genderqueer beacon of hope grows up and goes to school. Just wait until the other kids demand conformity and your kid, eager to comply, settles on his or her inevitably normative gender. Just wait until you're watching your queer and feminist ideals get pummeled by the hegemony of princesses and trucks. In this vein, one reader of an essay that I wrote on children's gender self-determination suggested that my ideas were laughable to parents of older children. As they put it, quote, "Let me guess, this author has one child who's 2 or under. Yep, sure does. I think that shit's kind of obnoxious in the way that many first-time parents with tiny children who are sure they have all the right answers can be obnoxious. Wait until they have more kids or their kids get older, and I imagine they'll probably laugh at themselves like the rest of us." Now, this same notion that try as we might in the early years, the gender binary always wins out, has also been expressed to me by feminist parents who bemoan what seems to be the hydraulic force of their son's masculinity, or the unstoppable tidal wave of princess culture turning their daughter's life into a sea of pink. As one of my friends told me sincerely, "We've never had toy guns or anything like that in our house, but our son makes guns out of sticks and cardboard and even a slice of pizza. It's hopeless." In my experience, where there's hopelessness and confusion about kids' gender expression, biological essentialism is often lurking somewhere nearby. All too many parents conclude that if, despite their best efforts at gender-neutral parenting, which is what it's often called these days, their children still end up embracing normative masculinity or femininity, and it is probably because they were hardwired to do so. So in other words, even these feminist parents decide that boys and girls really are different after all. When our child started school, he was repeatedly asked, "Are you a boy or a girl?" and then subsequently assured by other children, "You are a boy," an idea that Yarrow soon embraced. Now Yarrow is in a long and unfolding process of figuring out how to be legible as a boy and to avoid being corrected by other children. Who say things like, "Boys don't wear shoes like that, boys don't have hair like that," and he wants to avoid being corrected so that he can feel safe at school. He comes home and tells us about how he has been policed, and he tells us that he doesn't want to wear those shoes anymore, or he needs a haircut because he's a boy. And of course, we intervene in this narrative at every turn, yet we also know that we have a tender child who will go to great lengths to avoid negative social attention. My husband-wife, Kat, and I are struck by the profound clarity that this social process really is how gender subjectivity is formed. I turn to Kat and I say what I already know in theory but am now watching unfold right before my eyes. "Oh my God, the biological narrative is complete bullshit." "Yep," she says. My sense is that as we think about early childhood gender identification and expression, we'd be wise to pay attention to the fact that kids are tracked into 2 gender categories, a lot like the way they are tracked academically in school. Many people have written about this problem of tracking in schools whereby kids at an early age test into different academic streams, gifted, college prep, vocational, and so forth. And then they tend to become stuck in these streams regardless of their suitability later on. Similarly, there is no doubt that children are tracked into two damaging mass-mediated gender categories, and that these tracks have cumulative effects, and that kids are provided with few real opportunities to get off track, as it were, or to be truly witnessed in their complexity. And yet the fact that a child has already been tracked or has tracked themselves does not relieve us from our job as adults to witness and support the nuances, to see the fine details, and to persist in our vision for a world without tracking. If Kat and I had taken all of Yarrow's words at face value, we might have given away his princess gowns and pink shoes. Yarrow was firm that he would never wear them again. And yet, had we simply resigned ourselves to this narrowing of Yarrow's world, we would not have known that during the summer, after being out of school for about 2 weeks, Yarrow tiptoes to his closet and pulls out all of those pink shoes. Out from under other children's scrutinizing gaze, he joyfully returns to the pink socks and the shoes, to the pink pajamas and other objects of forbidden love. Again, Kat and I marveled, so this is how gender subjectivity is formed. In other words, children's genders, like all people's genders, are relational. Yarrow is a boy, but not because his boyhood is dictated by his body. If any part of this story is about hardwiring, it's perhaps that my child, quite unlike his mother, very often wants to avoid social attention. He is strongly motivated by a desire to not stand out, and he will give up his most beloved possessions, including his favorite genders, to avoid standing out. So what can I do? At the very least, I can hold with love and patience the full story of who my child is and what my child loves when safe and free. I can remember when Yarrow forgets that pink clothing exists, that it knows no gender, and that it is always, always waiting there in the closet full of hand-me-downs. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening, and it is my pleasure to introduce Terry Wolverton.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here this evening. I met Jeanne such a long time ago in the context of the Women's Building in the 1970s, and continued to know her on and off in a variety of ways. The story I'm going to read tonight derives from the fact that for some period of time, both Jeanne and Lynn participated in writing workshops with me at Writers at Work. And then in the early 2000s, was it that you moved to Baja? 98, okay. In 1998, they moved to the southern Baja, to a little town called Todos Santos. And they said they missed me, and they missed the writing workshop. So they created a mechanism to fly me down to teach writing in Todos Santos. And I went several times. And one of the times that I went, I had the opportunity to not just fly in, but actually drive down. And that was incredibly inspiring, and it inspired a novel that I wrote called Stealing Angel. And it would never have been written without Jeanne and Lynn and having that experience. So just a little bit of background. The novel involves a woman by the name of Maggie Seaver, and she has co-parented a child, Angel, who's 7 years old, with a woman named Yoli. And Maggie and Yoli are no longer together, and Yoli has recently decided that she doesn't want Maggie to have anything more to do with raising her daughter, which is tough to take. And then Yoli puts Angel in the care of her boyfriend's sister, and it isn't very long before Maggie gets a call from Angel's teacher saying, your daughter came to school covered with bruises. And Maggie acts before she thinks, goes and picks her daughter up at school, and takes her over the border into Mexico. And so we'll pick up on that journey. About 20 miles out of Ensenada, I see the first checkpoint. Even though I've been reminded about them, even though I've been through them before, I can't help but be startled at the sight of soldiers in green uniforms with loaded rifles stopping cars on the road. This Angel can't ignore. Maggie, look, she gasps. Who are they? They work for the Mexican army, I tell her, trying to disguise the fear in my voice. The Mexican government has set up several army checkpoints on the road that traverses the Baja. Normally they're looking for drugs or guns, but what if somehow they've been alerted to look for Angel? I tell myself I'm being ridiculous. Nobody even knows yet that we're in Mexico. Do they? Approaching the roadblock, I'm startled to see how young the soldiers are. There are about 8 of them standing on the road. Some of them look as if they barely entered their teens, but there is no youth in their hardened expressions. The soldiers' lives are difficult. A little way back from the road, I can see the makeshift tents where they sleep at night. In the day, they stand by the road in the hot sun with nothing to shelter them. 2 cars ahead, there's a VW van. 6 white teenagers, they look like teenagers anyway. The boys are bare-chested and skinny in shorts, the girls in bikini tops. Disembark and stand at the side of the road while 3 guards tear the van from top to bottom. Every time they pull out another box or suitcase, they open it up, seeming to want more to disrupt its order than to find something in particular. The passengers look too scared to object. A 4th guard plies them with questions in rapid-fire Spanish, which apparently none of them speaks. The driver, sandy-haired with a scraggly goatee, tries his best to explain himself in English. What are they going to do to them? Angel wants to know. My pity for the teens is mitigated by the selfish hope that the amount of attention that's paid to their vehicle might result in less focus on mine. Perhaps they only check every 3rd vehicle or something. I watch the guards confiscate a watermelon, which the young surfers seem only too glad to relinquish. It takes a few minutes for them to repack their van, during which time the federales move on to the white pickup in front of me. This car has Mexican plates, and one guard leans into the front window to chat it up with the driver, then waves him on with a grin. The white pickup maneuvers around the van, throwing up dust as it accelerates. Then the guard motions me forward. He has a small mustache and eyes that show no spark of recognition of a fellow human being. In a whisper, Angel asks, "Are we in trouble?" "No, honey," I tell her, although I wish my own hammering heart would listen to my reassurances. "It's going to be okay." "Buenos dias," I greet him. He peers into the car, staring fixedly at Angel. "Mija," I tell him, "my daughter." He studies her longer, unconvinced of any family resemblance. His is not a world of turkey basters and insemination clinics and 3rd world adoptions. His eyes go next to my fingers on the steering wheel. No ring. I should do something about that before the next time we're stopped. Divorciados, I smile ruefully, hoping to elicit pity. I find Angel's eyes on me. Does she think I'm lying to him? The guard looks me up and down as if his appraising eye can see why a man would want to leave me. ¿A dónde van? He wants to know. Vamos a Todos Santos, I explain. Then my Spanish fails me. To see friends, amigos. ¿De dónde? He questions further. De Los Angeles. Then I wonder if I should have told him another place. What if he's been instructed to watch for a woman and a girl from Los Angeles? He holds out his hand. I stare at him for a moment, hoping to find some meaning in his gesture. Then it occurs to me he's asking for our papers. What if he's been told to watch for people with our name? Still, I hand over our documents, hoping that maintaining eye contact will make me seem more trustworthy. Passport, he says, insistently looking at Angel, who hides her head behind dog bear. No, I tell him, solamente un birth certificate. But the man at immigration said it was okay. I realize that babbling in English is worse than futile. He doesn't understand my words. He stares at me some more, and I expect him to order me and Angel out of the car. Instead, with no word of explanation, he turns on his heels and disappears into a small wooden shed by the side of the road. The other guards remain clustered around the car. They look at me and make some remarks, and for once, I'm glad I don't understand them. There are no other vehicles behind us. Can we go? Angel whispers. Not yet. Why? Is he mad at us? She's gripping my hands in the way she only does anymore when she's afraid. I don't know. I try to keep the tremor out of my voice. A fine sheen of sweat has sprouted along my hairline. Maybe the FBI has sent our pictures to the Mexican police. Maybe in this shed is a desk, atop which is a fax of my picture with the word wanted emblazoned underneath. But then I look out at the desolate landscape, the smoke rising from the campsite cook fire. It doesn't look like there's even electricity at this outpost, let alone a phone line. Are they going to shoot us? Tears welling in her eyes as my daughter stares at the automatic rifles. No, of course not. I make myself sound firm, confident. The whole idea of this trip was to keep my daughter safe, not to put her at greater risk or terrorize her further. Spirit, I pray, protect her. Do whatever you want to me, but let no harm come to this girl. In a minute later, the soldier returns, zipping up his fly. Did he really just need to take a piss? He strides back to the car window and hands us our papers. Senora, he says, and then to Angel, Senorita, and gestures for us to pass. Before I do, I reach into the food bag for an unopened package of chocolate chip cookies. Por ustedes, I offer them. He snatches them eagerly and rips the plastic. The other guards crowd around to make sure they get their share. It is only once I start the car and drive off in a cloud of dust that I notice my hands gripping the steering wheel are shaking, that my teeth are chattering even though I'm still sweating. Maggie, Mama, are you okay? Angel wants to know. I start to answer in the affirmative, but the tears come unbidden, so hard I have to pull to the narrow shoulder of the road because I can't see. It's like a sudden storm come upon the landscape. My shoulders are racked with sobs and I press my forehead against the steering wheel. Perhaps it's years of accumulated grief. The loss of Yoli, the way she's turned into someone I can't even recognize anymore, the threatened loss of Angel, the idea that anyone would dare to beat my child, any child, the long drive, my desperate strategy that could put everything at risk, and the skinny, hungry 16-year-olds with guns. Thank you. call to the stage now Robin Kowalski.
Good evening. So I have known Jeanne Córdova since 1973. First as a leader, and I guess I can say this now, distant crush object. And then eventually as a colleague and a political comrade, as an editor, and finally as a dear friend. She knew me when I was a Marxist atheist. She knew me when I was a Wiccan priestess. She knew me when I became ordained as a rabbi. And as, in fact, when we were in Lesbian together, a group to which she invited me, she helped me to finish my rabbinic thesis. And it was a wonderful space. It was a space where you could go and know that people would give you critique that was rigorous and respectful. And it moved me enormously that, Jeanne and Lynn opened their home to us, always hosted us. And as Jeanne became more and more ill, she continued to participate with every fiber as long as she could, when even not only suffering from cancer, but suffering from the effects of the medicine that she had to take. Sometimes physically, it was almost impossible for her to talk, but she had read everybody's piece and formulated comments that were apt, helpful, pertinent to the work, really up until the last. She was a giver. She was a leader. She created conferences and magazines and organizations, and was also a dear friend. So the two pieces, I'm reading a kind of a mashup of two pieces, actually that I created through another writing group called Queerwise, one of which I had the opportunity to read to Jeanne in public, I read it in front of people with her permission, and the other describing an event that took place at the house. Do the bull dagger, swagger. Do the bull dagger, swagger. Do the bull dagger, swagger. Yeah. 20 years ago, everyone I knew had a fatal disease or a friend who did. Then it was AIDS, impelling us into the streets, into jail, and into print. Now it's AIDS, cancer, and everything else that people well into the second half of our lives might expect. Former caregivers are willing to receive. Jeanne was in her young 20s when first we met, already a leader in the new lesbian feminism, and half of the most adorable butch look-alike couple I ever did see. Two short, compact women, each with a shock of jet black David Bowie hair, impenetrable sunglasses, and miles of swagger. I was 18, bidding farewell to the fountain of curls that erupted halfway down my back with my first dyke haircut, copied from those two. Thanks to people like them. When I went looking for the dykes, I knew where to find them. There was a community center. There were dances and marches and touch football on Venice Beach, a sport at which I sucked and was still welcome to play. Jeanne was gay before she was a lesbian, before she was queer, when queer was something we were called by enemies. She pulled a homophile women's association, which actually met in an unmarked basement, into the world of dyke activism, created magazines and conferences, and helped to lead every queer coalition around every electoral issue ever. A wide view of her life gives us big history: lesbian feminism, gay pride. In close-up, she is lovey to her wife, whom she married decades ago in robes and garlands before family and over 100 friends, and then again quietly when our marriages won the legal recognition that her efforts had helped to bring. Jeanne has been my editor and a writing buddy who fills the margins of first and second and sixth drafts with crisp, apt comments. She once gave me money disguised as a loan, adjusted my scarf with surprising gentleness on a winter's night before I left her house. Queer pride is a composite creature, a protean being whose DNA is written in books and movies and slogans bellowed into the night, whose muscles are big marches and legislative lobby days and mass arrests, whose sparkling synapses are private acts of friendship, loyalty, and love. So, California, the spacious backyard of a Frank Lloyd Wright house, the grass glossy and green beneath an enamel bright blue sky. A swimming pool sculpted in concrete glistens, and the avocado canopy brown beneath the uncompromising afternoon sun. There is beer and water, whiskey and organic juice, and an abundance of ice. Lipstick lesbians, bi-dykes, baby dykes, straight relatives and friends, some people who have dispensed altogether with labels, and yes, some very handsome bulldaggers indeed. A few now leaning heavily on the pimp canes we pretend are accessories. The youngest are still in their teens. The oldest have been on this earth for 9 decades and some change. The youngest think nothing of their friends of all genders, going steady, considering marriage, rejecting marriage as hopelessly old school. The oldest remember when clothing or stance could get you beaten, bloody, or worse, by cops. And it would be you, not they, who would wind up in jail. Today we are very lucky because Frank, the all-American Jewish lesbian folk singer, is there to sing for us in person. Remember Frank from when she was a wee dyke playing guitar and singing her heart out on the Venice boardwalk for tourist change. She is now a celebrated artist and partnered parent of 2, one of whose daughters has headed off to university for the first time. Still the dash and dagger, my friend Alicia and I, 2 of the 3 femmes for the day who are wearing skirts right there in the second row, giggle and cheer when Frank throws those roguish butch grins our way. I'm so Aussie, she croons. Where is my Harriet? Her Harriet, a published author in her own right, is, as it happens, right there, beaming proud. What a perfectly fantastic day. We who are there have marched together, made art together, been arrested together, strategized, argued, reconciled, and of course, and in various combinations, have had a great deal of sex together. This is chosen family, this our portable home, the one that manifests wherever we gather. We are being treated to this concert at the home of our friends, Jeanne and Lynn. Jeanne had heard that her friend Frank was giving a concert and had called to find how accessible to disabled people the venue would be. Frank told Jeanne not to worry about the venue because she would come to her. And she did. And so here we are. Jeanne is dying. This day is one of her goodbye gifts to us. Frank breaks into her signature hit, Bull Dagger Swagger, and Jeanne leads the butch strut, one arm supported by her cane, the other wrapped around and supported discreetly by Lynn's shoulders, looking impeccably Mac as always as she hobbles in perfect time, old friends and baby butch protege trailing after, baking in their shirts and vests under the sun in that pristine sky, eyes bright with unshed tears and soft with love. the all-American Jewish lesbian folk singer.
Lesbian tie office. And then looked at me with her tinted shades with that perfect black hair and those little black boots. Benson and Hedges menthol and her mouth. lesbian and gay